recommended for specific DP courses and what that's going to look like. And towards the end, we're going to have a counseling session, or how the DP course selection is also going to have an impact on the college counseling side. And so the counselors will also come up to kind of do that presentation towards the end. I also want to give you some time to do a Q&A session at the end to give you an opportunity to ask me any questions so that we can also answer some of your burning questions that you might have about the diploma program. So I shall get started. For those of you who are Korean speakers, we also have a QR code for this presentation has been translated into Korean, so please feel free to take a picture of this QR code, and you can follow along the presentation as we go along. So I will give you guys a few seconds to take a picture of this QR code, and then I'll move on to the next slide. So this is a brief overview of what we will be presenting today. I won't be explaining every single thing here, but again, the biggest highlight is actually going to be the DP groups and course recommendations. That's, I think, the longest portion of the presentation, and that will be kind of the main highlight of this presentation. So now I will need to introduce myself first. My name is Min-Soo Cho. I'm the DP coordinator here at TCIS. This is my 3rd year as DP coordinator, my 10th year here at TCIS, and I've taught various MYP and DP courses. Currently I'm teaching DP economics, and again, it's really nice to see all of you, even though I don't specifically get to interact with 10th graders a lot. I would like to also introduce Ms. Jack Lopez, who's right here, and she is the DP counselor. And the other half is right there, Ms. Roya, who is also waving her hand right there. And then we also have our MYP counselor, Ms. Reed, who's also obviously interacting with you more with grade 10s. And so that is kind of our team, and we collectively try to ensure that your student or your child transitions well into the diploma program. So you may have gotten a handout at the very beginning. Ms. Cindy would have given you a clear file with all the forms, and so I'm going to explain to you what those are. Towards the very end, though, there will be the teacher recommendations that you will receive before you leave the session. So after everything, at the end of the session, as you leave, Ms. Cindy will also hand out your child's course recommendations, and so please make sure you pick it up. So the first thing you might notice is the course request worksheet, which is the list of all the courses that we offer next year, including electives. So that is kind of where we're choosing, where your child is choosing from in terms of your DP courses along with electives. We also have a school profile, and that is sent to universities every year so that, again, schools have a better context of our students' education. And it's also helpful to you as a parent to kind of see our school context and the courses that we offer and things like that. We also have a course timeline sheet that is there that kind of goes over, what is going to happen at around what time, and then essentially all the way up to April. We also have an academic integrity policy document. I think that is also shared with you, I think in the form. And so you can also look over that, because academic integrity is also very important based on not just IB, but also TCIS. The presentation, there are also several links here at the very bottom where you did not get a hard copy, but because they're very long and lengthy as well. But the student handbook and the general regulations is also an important document that we really recommend that you review. These documents are pretty lengthy, so we obviously don't expect you to read this in one sitting. But I would really strongly recommend that you take the time with your child to at least quickly review those pages, because it goes over some pretty important regulations of the diploma program that we can't possibly explain, in one presentation. So please take the time to also review this. You also might have the summer to kind of, again, quickly review those specific documents. Okay, so. All right, so TCIS in general, and actually consistently, we are scoring above world average, and over many years, we've also scored even up to 5 marks above the world average. So we have a really strong program. Also, we've been doing the IB diploma program for almost, I would say at least almost 20 years, or even more than 20 years. Since the late 2000s, we've provided the diploma program. And so we have a very strong program, a very long history of providing the DP. And we're actually the first school, again, I think I mentioned this back in October, to offer all three programs, PYP, NYP, and the DP. So you're in good hands, and your child is in good hands as they enter the diploma program next year. So in the IB diploma courses, you will need to think really carefully about making decisions because those same classes is a 2-year course, not just 1 year as you might see in other programs like the AP. Because you have to stick with the courses for about 2 years, it's really important that you make a very careful decision, and a decision that will ensure that you kind of have the best opportunities the next 2 years. And so to kind of explain the two different types of courses that we offer here, higher level is a more rigorous university level course, and standard level is more of an advanced high school or introductory college level courses. And so you need to have a balanced selection of those courses. The full diploma, as I will explain later, you will need to choose 3 HLs or higher levels and 3 SLs. The diploma program has 6 subject groups, and we will talk more about those later as we go through each slide. But I want to highlight the main difference between Group 1 and Group 2. So Group 1 is mainly for students that are fluent in the language that is offered, versus Group 2, as you can see, is called Language Acquisition, is more students that are learning the language. So there are several courses that we offer in Group 1 and Group 2, and sometimes it varies depending on the student body, that you might want to, again, make sure you have a conversation with your child on what courses might be appropriate for next year. Group 3 is Individuals and Societies, and that is humanities in the NYP, or we often call it humanities, but that's INS, or Individuals and Societies. And the rest, I think, are fairly straightforward, so I won't really go over those specific subject groups. I want to also clarify that the IB diploma is actually on top of your TCIS diploma. So every single student, if they meet the graduation requirements, they will earn a TCIS diploma. The IB diploma is not the same as the TCIS diploma. The IB diploma is something that students earn if they are the full DP student around when results are released in July, because they take the exams in May. When that's released, they get their certificate that year around September. So that's separate, so that's on top of their TCIS diploma. They will be earning their IB diploma once they successfully complete all courses or requirements by May. And again, in order for a student to be a full diploma candidate, they need to take 3 HL courses and 3 SL courses, along with the other core subjects. About 2/3 of the class or cohort choose the full diploma, and so it's also important that students have the appropriate recommendations to be considered a full diploma student. So here is a table that kind of goes over the difference. Now you may notice there was a term that was used in the past that we formerly called them internal candidates. You might notice that we changed that term to TCIS diploma just to reflect that those courses are not IB courses but TCIS courses. So that's why we changed the term to TCIS diploma, just to clarify and to avoid confusion. But let me go over the full diploma candidate first. So each student will need to take a subject from each subject groups, the 6 subject groups, although they can also choose from Group 1 to 5. And then instead of taking a Group 6, they can choose to take another Group 3 or Group 4. And so 3 higher level and 3 standard level courses. And then we also have the core subjects, if you look at the bottom, Theory of Knowledge, Extended Essay, and CAS, Creativity, Activity, and Service. So all of those are a requirement to be a full diploma student at TCIS. And then you can choose to be a course candidate. Instead of having to take 3 HLs and 3 SLs, students can mix that up to maybe 4 SLs and 2 HLs, or 1 HL and 5 SLs. And then the TOK will be not necessarily a requirement let me backtrack. So for a semester, it will be a requirement, but beyond that, while it's not necessarily a requirement, we do strongly encourage students to continue with their TOK class. And actually a majority of our students do end up taking the full TOK course along with their full diploma peers, even if they are a course candidate, because they really enjoy the class. And so the very last semester of their grade 12 year will be Bible or spiritual formations. EE, or the extended essay, is not a requirement for course candidates, but CAS is going to be a requirement for all students, regardless of their status. So whether they're full diploma, course candidate, or TCAS diploma candidate, they will need to take CAS. TCAS diploma and mostly, we don't have a lot of students that take all TCAS diploma courses. We have students that either have a mix of course candidate and TCAS diploma, or just course candidate. So TCAS diploma is different from just the regular IB courses that students take, because those students will not be sitting in for the DP exams in April and May. So these are specifically courses that are intended for students to earn TCI's credit, but not necessarily sitting in for the diploma exams. And so while those students will be taking the classes with their diploma or course candidate peers, it will be structured differently in terms of the teacher, and the assessments will also differ, and there's a lot more flexibility in terms of what students need to accomplish in that course. And so that is the main difference between, again, full diploma, course candidate, and TCAS diploma. Those are the three pathways. But again, the students mainly have a mix of course candidate and TCAS diploma. I hope the silence is good, or I know sometimes.
What about when you are applying for university? What are the differences between DP candidate and the other TCIS?
So that really depends on what schools your child is interested in applying. Of course, some schools will be a little bit more rigorous in terms of the requirement, and that is a conversation you might want to have with the counselors as well. But I just off the top of my head, schools in Singapore and Hong Kong or Australia, they're a lot more strict in terms of the diploma requirements. But schools in the US will be a little bit less rigorous than that. But again, it really depends on what the school is interested in pursuing. If a student is really interested in pursuing art, perhaps the double science HL will not necessarily be a requirement, and it's not necessary. So it's a bit nuanced and there's differences, but again, for more specific information, you will probably need to do research on that specific school and also have a conversation with the counselors. Great. No, it's good. Questions are good. It just means that you're also listening, so that's good. Let me move on to the next. So sometimes we do get questions about having or taking more than 3 HLs, and our very direct and answer will be no. The full DP already is a very rigorous course. It's designed for students to face challenges. And so there's really no reason why your student or your child needs to take 4 HL courses, and it also makes scheduling a lot more complicated. So there's really, again, no reason why your child needs to sign up for 4 HLs. We will only accept 3 HL requests and not beyond that. So again, the workload is already very heavy on top of what a lot of our students are engaged in. Because we are a bit smaller, we have students engaged in a lot of different activities. And so in order to manage and balance all of that, we again strongly recommend that your child stay within the 3 HL and 3 SL boundaries. So it's already very demanding. All right, so we also have the TCAS, so we'll talk more about the full diploma candidate or the TCAS diploma candidate. One of the, let me go to the very bottom. So I just talked about the TCAS diploma. So TCAS diploma students are not necessarily having to submit assignments to the IB. So again, the requirements are not going to be as rigorous. And in fact, if you go on PowerSchool, the courses will also be named differently. So all the DP courses are labeled as IB DP and then the subject. And then depending on what grade level, if it's grade 11, it will be 1. If it's grade 12, it will have the number 2 sign. But when you go to PowerSchool, and if the student is a TCAS diploma student, there will be no IB DP. It will just say the subject chemistry for English language and literature, 11 or 12 for their grade level. So that's also another way for you to know what courses your child is signed up for on PowerSchool. Okay, so TCS diploma, while this is an option, students can't necessarily just pursue the TCS diploma just because they want to earn higher grades or because they just don't want to challenge themselves. I know a lot of our students are not like that, and they are very ambitious and want to challenge themselves in a way that will help them to continue to grow. But again, we need to have specific documentation and approval from the necessary or appropriate advisory committee in order for your child to be fully TCS diploma. But otherwise, we strongly encourage and push students to be either full diploma or course candidate. So it's also easier for students to pursue that, and if it's really not for them, to switch courses to kind of become course candidate or TCS diploma instead of the other way around. If a student starts out as a TCS diploma student, it's going to be very hard for the student to go back into either course candidate or full diploma. So please make sure you keep that in mind when you're having that conversation with your child. Okay, so now we are going to enter into the IBDP groups and course recommendations. And I know I've been talking this whole time. Do you have any questions for me before I begin this second section of the presentation? Okay. And I do speak Korean, so if you don't feel comfortable asking the question in English, I can also understand Korean, so I answer in English and we can translate. Okay, let's go over the IBDP groups. So when teachers are recommending courses for you, they really want students to find that balance. But we also don't want students to sign up for courses where it will become almost impossible for students to succeed. So again, finding that balance is going to be very important. And while it might be disappointing if you're not recommended for specific courses, it is still very important then to know perhaps what are some areas that you might need to continue to grow, because we still have a few months left in grade 10. And maybe the student can show drastic or significant improvement for the remaining few weeks. And in that case, that could be kind of proof that the student can really challenge themselves and continue to grow. So again, course recommendations, while they do kind of give you an idea of where they might be placed, it is not the end all where that's just entirely fixed and you can't go beyond that. But please know we do have some parameters and policies in place if students do go against recommendations, and that will be explained a bit later. But there is going to be a requirement for students to fulfill in order to go against recommendation and enroll in courses that they were not initially recommended for. So the guideline, the presentation slides will be shared with you after this session, but the guideline is, there's going to be a link that will take you to the guideline form. And actually, let me click on this for a second. If you click on it, it will show you a list of all the courses. I know it's a very lengthy document, but it goes by subject group. And I don't know if I can probably zoom in or not, sorry. So at your own time, you can probably look through this document, but it goes over every single subject group and what the requirement is for the student to be recommended for specific courses. So that will be also for your review to kind of check and see. Excuse me. Okay. So let me go over group 1. So group 1 is language and literature. And so these are the courses that are offered. Generally, or consistently, we offer English language and literature, H1SL, and Korean literature, H1SL, not language and literature. So please know there is a difference between language and literature. So in Korean A, we only offer literature here at TCIS, and in English A, we only offer language and literature. Depending on the year and the student body that we have, we do offer Chinese A or Mandarin A, but that's also language and literature. And depending on the level, H1SL. And there may be also a diagnostic test if there is no evidence of that language background, if the student chooses to enroll in Korean literature or Chinese A language and literature. There is also the diploma option that's going to be automatic. If a child chooses to take 2 subjects in group 1, they will, and if they successfully pass the course as a full diploma student, they earn the bilingual diploma. So that's another distinction that you will receive from the IB if you pass that course. If you do choose to take 2 group 1 courses here, you are not required to take a third group 2, I guess. So you won't be taking group 2 if you are taking 2 group 1 courses. So if you're, for instance, if I choose English language and literature and Korean literature, then I won't be taking a second language course. Funnily enough, some students do ask, can I take Korean literature and Chinese A language and literature? That is not possible because English is a graduation requirement here at TCI. So English is a course that you must take in group 1. So that is a requirement for group 1. For language A, we generally look at the student's grade 10 NYP language and literature course grades and also recommendations from the teacher. We also try to look at other data, including some of the standardized testing that we do at the beginning of the year with math testing and PSAT scores. Those are also some things that we do consider when we are making the placements, because in group 1, in English especially, English language and literature, because there is a literature portion there, we do have students, we must have students also read pretty difficult literature like Hamlet is also something that students are reading in grade 11. And if the students' language skills aren't able to support that, that is also going to be very, very challenging. So please also know that we are looking at other data points as we are making recommendations on top of their NYP grade 10 grades. If a student is also, there's no evidence of the student's language skills from their NYP years, then we also will require or ask the student to take the diagnostic test. We strongly recommend students to continue their NYP language course into the DP. So if you've been taking NYP Spanish, we really do encourage you to continue with NYP Spanish into DP Spanish. But for whatever reason, if you choose that that might not be the path for you and you want to switch to a different language, and you want to take, let's say, Chinese B SL, then you will need to take a diagnostic test so that we know you are at the appropriate level. So that is going to be group 1. And then let me move over to group 2. So group 2, we don't have English, but we do have Chinese, Spanish offered in language acquisition. So we have Chinese B, at times we do offer up to HL. Mostly we offer Chinese B SL and Mandarin ab initio. So ab initio essentially means courses for beginners. So although that term might be a little bit misleading because we are a continuum school and we have students continuing to take their NYP course into the DP, the ground rule that we have here is that if you have taken the language for more than 2 years, you will be asked to take language B. But if it's less than 2 years, you will be placed in ab initio. So that's kind of the distinction. So while, yes, theoretically you can take ab initio courses as a beginner, if you just want to learn a new language, please know that in that class, you may also have students that have taken that course for 1 or 2 years. So that will be a little bit different, and you need to understand that dynamic if you're really thinking of or considering switching courses over from, if I've taken NYP Chinese and I want to go to NYP Spanish, Spanish ab initio might not necessarily mean you're that everyone is starting from the beginning, that they're learning the alphabet and things like that. So that's something to consider as well if you're switching over languages. Okay, so we went over the languages group 1 and 2. Do we have any questions so far? Okay, I think I guess I'm doing great. All right, let me go over the DP language acquisition course recommendation requirements. So again, just like group 1, we look at their grade 10 NYP Mandarin and NYP Spanish grades and also their teacher recommendations. Again, as I mentioned, if the student has not shown evidence of mastery of that language or having taken that course in the past, students might be asked to take a diagnostic test. And group 3, my favorite, not because I teach economics, but it's individuals and societies. And we offer 3 specific courses here in group 3. So we have business management, global politics, and economics. And so you may already notice that the very third courses, you can see business management 11, economics 11, global politics 11. Those are the TCS diploma courses. So you can again choose HL and SL, and that is offered in group 3. For INS placement, again, these recommendations were placed by your current grade 10 humanities teacher. If you want to take, which sometimes a lot of students do pursue this, to take double HL humanities, you will need to earn a 7 or above in criterion D, or thinking critically, for that specific recommendation. If a student does not necessarily meet this criteria or this recommendation, you may be asked to take a diagnostic test for those specific courses. So again, this is another option that students take. Instead of taking a group 6, they choose to double up on group 3. So that is a common option or pathway for students wanting to pursue the full VP. And then group 4, I know this is also a lot in your interest. So we have the natural sciences offered here with biology, chemistry, and physics. And we also, again, you will notice the the TCS diploma courses here. And then we also have, starting last year, we also offered computer science and design technology. And so those are another option. So we actually have 5 subjects that are offered in group 4, the most, I think, in any of the subject groups. And so that is also something you might want to consider, also based on what you want to pursue in university. So let me, go back to the previous slide. So we divided the group 4 into 2 with the natural sciences and the other 2 courses because the recommendations do look different. So we almost consider those 2 as separate departments within the same subject group. So for DP Natural Science, we look at what the student took in their NYP course. So in grade 9 and 10, what courses they've taken. And then based on what they're interested in and what they've taken, the corresponding NYP courses, the science teachers made a recommendation for the specific DP science courses. Science, for obvious reasons, the HL placement is quite rigid and a bit strict, especially if the student wants to pursue double HL science. That is also something that you will need to look into. As I mentioned in the previous slides, I have the link with the guidelines. The guidelines is fairly long, but it's pretty clear as to what the requirements are. So for instance, an overall grade of 6 or 7 and a criterion A of 7 or above is a requirement for double HL placement. So if that is not the requirement that you've met, you probably will not be recommended for a double HL science. It's really, really important that you have this conversation with your parents or with your child about double HL science, especially because that also, again, the requirements are very rigorous, and because natural sciences have a very rigid lab work requirement, that means extra time spending, on experiments and having to, stay in class outside of the regular school hours to kind of continue with their experiments, with their internal assessments. So there needs to be a pretty good reason as to why your child wants to pursue double HL science, and it needs to correspond really well with what they're trying to pursue in university. So please don't just consider this, I just want to challenge myself and take double HL science. Please have a really clear reason and goal as to why you want to pursue double HL science. And those conversations need to come with, with me, with your counselors, and other stakeholders, okay? All right, any questions about the DP science placement? Yes?
DP courses and in between, the difference in between the DP courses and internal courses, what you call the 11th grade course.
Yes.
What you teach, are they different? The
They-
contents, what's being taught?
They should be different. The assessments is where you see a clear difference, but also the content that is taught is either shortened and for the regular TCS diploma courses, or some topics will not be part of the requirement. That's going to, again, differ based on the subject, so I can't give you a really clear blanket statement as to what it will look like, but it should be different in terms of what they are being taught, even though they might be in the same classroom with their other diploma peers.
Question.
Yes?
Can you tell us how many students, 15 of the 54 class 2025, have taken the double science?
Double science or double HL science?
Double HL science.
I don't have that specific data with me as to what the number of double HL
Roughly.
science, but that might be something good to see. Counselors, do you have a number that comes to your mind? No, we don't have a specific number as to how many are taking double HL science. All right. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
There is note some universities do not accept computer science, design technology as a science course. And what if they do not accept, what affects to students if they select computer science?
I think those students who choose to take computer science in lieu of the natural sciences, again, there is a specific track that they're wanting to pursue. That's also why, and I think those are kind of the forms that we have to ensure that the student really did their research in terms of the schools that they're interested in and what they're wanting to pursue. But I also, DP counselors, do you want to weigh in on that a little bit?
Yes, thank you for your question. But for some of those, for design tech and computer science, those are sometimes complementary sciences for the natural science. So if it's a track that's specific to a particular course or program at the university, that's definitely a combination that we can support. But that's mostly for very niche programs. For most of the top tier universities, they are still going to look for natural sciences.
So a lot of our students do pursue computer science or design technology with another natural science, although not all of them, but that is a common option that students have chosen for Group 4. Another thing is, I haven't mentioned this previously, but in SL placement, in principle, a student should be recommended for SL unless there's a very specific reason why they might not be able to pursue that course. SL is kind of the default course that students should be able to access. Again, unless there's a specific reason as to why we believe the student shouldn't be taking SL, but that's kind of our kind of agreement within the school. All right, so again, computer science was offered the first time 2 years ago, so this will be actually the first grade 12 cohort to graduate with a computer science course. And so it's still relatively new, but design technology, of course, that's something that you would have pursued in the NYP. But again, these are, recently added computer science, and design technology is also in Group 4. So again, please be mindful that as the counselors have mentioned, some schools will not consider these specific subjects as a science course, and so you need to be also very mindful when you are considering enrolling in these courses. Yes?
I wanted to ask you, what is exactly the difference between design technology and computer science?
So as a Group 3 teacher, I need to be very careful in what I say. So I can just share with you what my observations are as DP coordinator. In design technology, I find a lot of their assessments are very hands-on, creating like materials and output. They're in their lab, wood shop, making things, and their internal assessment is all about that, really designing a product and analyzing those things. Computer science is, I believe, a lot of computer software program Java. I heard Java a lot, and those specific things beyond that, because again, it's still a relatively new course here at TCIS. I'm not entirely well versed in what they teach, but very different from design technology. Again, design technology, I've noticed that it's really hands-on approach where you're creating specific things, and so a lot of the things that you saw your child do in NYP design is going to be very similar in DP design. All right, thank you for that question. Okay. All right, so DP science placement specifically for computer science and design technology is going to be based on the student's performance in either NYP design technology or computer technology. If the student is really interested in those courses, there's also, I think, something that teachers may plan towards the end of the year that might be helpful for the student, like a workshop regarding Java or something like that. But again, mainly though, the recommendation is placed by the current DP, design tech, or computer technology teacher, and based on their grades. So that is going to be your child's recommendation. And then group 5 is mathematics, and perhaps it's the quote-unquote simplest in that there are 3 subjects that are offered here at TCIS in group 5. So we have math analysis HL, math analysis SL, and we have math applications SL. So those are the 3 specific levels. As you saw in group 4, in terms of computer science and design technology, some schools might not consider math applications as a university level math course because it's math applications SL. We don't offer math applications HL. So if your child is specifically pursuing, especially the STEM field, they are going to have, in the UK for instance, they are going to have a very specific requirement on what courses you must take. And so again, you will need to do that research, and based on that research, you will need to sign up for the corresponding or appropriate math course. Math analysis HL, I've been told consistently, is one of the most challenging courses that is offered in the diploma program. And so there are, again, some very rigid and strict placement exams or criteria that your child will need to meet in order for your child to be recommended for those courses. So not only their math extended grade, they will also have an assignment that they will need to complete in order for them to be considered for the math analysis HL placement. So those are some things to have in mind before I move on to the math placement. So again, overall, of course, in general, their math 10 extended grades will be their base, will be the basis for the recommendation. And of course, criterion A of a 6 or 7 is going to be the very basic requirement for the student to be placed in math analysis HL. And again, if you look into the guideline document, it will also include I believe a spring semester assignment or an exam, placement exam, that the student will take. On top of that, in grade 11, once they move up to the DP, if they are placed in math analysis HL, there is a trig test that students will take within the first 2 weeks of them returning from summer. And that trig test will be kind of the determinant as to whether the student can continue at math analysis HL or not. Because that trig is going to be, perhaps, I was told, the easier topic that is taught in math HL. And if the student really struggles with that topic, most likely the student will continue to struggle throughout. And so it's very important if your child is interested in math analysis HL, again, within the first 2 weeks in math HL, there will be a trig test that will again be a determinant as to whether they can continue that course. And in grade 10, they will have to have the necessary grades of math 10 extended along with the completion of that spring semester assignment in placement weeks. Okay. Moving on to group 6. So in group 6, we offer visual arts and music. And again, depending on the number of students that are interested in the course, we might be able to continue music or not, again, depending on how many students sign up. But visual arts tend to be a bit more consistent in terms of our offering, and so those are the 2 specific courses. Sometimes it's very easy to kind of look over group 6 and, again, double up on group 3 and group 4. But I think the greatest strength of being an IB student is being well-rounded and finding that balance, and that's why they offer 6 subject groups. So if your child is considered or interested in any of these areas, I would really strongly encourage your child to continue to pursue that, because again, schools also do look at how balanced they are in terms of their course selection. And so again, if this is an appropriate option for you, I really strongly recommend that you have a conversation as to whether you might be really interested in taking a group 6, because often, again, I see students be like, nope, no group 6, and then they tend to go to group 3 or group 4. But it's a wonderful opportunity for your child to continue to explore what they're interested in group 6. So again, if this is something that interests you, please feel free to share that with us. And of course, the arts placement, your child probably are currently taking NYP Arts, and so those recommendations were given by their teachers. Also, some of your children are taking electives in choir or orchestra, and again, that is something that that data that we can use for your arts teachers to make those specific recommendations. Okay, TOK and or we call it Bible, but also it's actually spiritual formations, and so these are also part of the requirement here at TCIS. Again, if your child is pursuing the full diploma, 3 semesters of TOK or Theory of Knowledge is a requirement. If your child is a course candidate, at least 1 semester of TOK is a requirement, although again, we strongly recommend that your child continue with the diploma peers for 3 semesters. And then spiritual formations at the very end in grade 12, that last semester, is going to be quote-unquote Bible. So that is a graduation requirement as well. So that is going to be the core, one of the core subjects. And then we also have electives that are offered, and so we have choir, orchestra, and we have 2 STEAM workshops, coding and media promotion. Again, depending on what you are interested in pursuing as a student in university, it might be worth pursuing, although based on our current schedule, that is placed also during office hours. So some students who don't have electives have office hours. That is kind of a second study hall block for them. So in lieu of that extra study hall, they can choose to take electives and pursue what they're interested in that course. So that is something to be aware of for electives. Okay, so that was kind of a really basic overview of all 6 subject groups, along with some of the core subjects. The 2 that I didn't get to explain is the extended essay and CAS, but again, that is more for a different time that I can explain to you later. But those are the specific subjects that your students will need to enroll in. But does anyone have any questions about the presentation so far about the 6 subject groups? All right, excellent. All right, so, excuse me. So we strongly recommend your child to, if your child, for instance, your child is taking the course and believes that that course might not be for them, they have about 2 weeks to make up their mind and change the courses without really any question. After 2 weeks, it will become a lot harder for your child to change courses. So that's why we have this conversation late in the evening, and we've had it multiple times, and we're recording and we're sending the presentation to you, is because we want to make sure that you make the best choice for yourself. Because again, you're having to stick with these courses for 2 years. So that's why it's important that you are not just simply making decisions based on, what you think you're interested in or what you want to pursue maybe. You need to make sure that you are very intentional about the choices that you make. So on very rare occasions, we might accept changes after that, but probably the conversation will then get into, you probably shouldn't pursue full diploma. We recommend that you become a course candidate. And so when you are making those choices or those decisions with your child, again, please make sure that it is with the best intention and with the best amount of research that you're able to do, humanly possibly do. And just make sure that if you have any concerns, please continue to reach out to us so that we're able to address those questions. But again, 2 weeks is kind of that maximum amount of time that you'll have before you want to start changing courses. So again, please make sure that you are having, again, that lengthy conversation with your child. At the beginning of the year, we're also going to have everyone sign something called the Statement of Understanding. Now, sometimes students do choose to enroll in courses outside the teacher's recommendations. If that is something that the child wants to pursue, we have this form called Statement of Understanding that essentially outlines some expectations that we have. So if you are recommended for a specific course and you want to pursue HL, that means that the requirements are going to be a lot more rigorous than what you might expect. And again, based on your performance in MYP, you haven't really shown the capacity to be able to pursue HL. That would be our recommendation. However, if your child believes that they can turn things around and they're going to stick with a routine and they're going to be able to invest a lot of time into pursuing HL, then this form is kind of, again, outlining those recommendations. Some of the things that we do outline though is if your child earns a 1 or 2 in semester 1 of their first year in DP, they will be asked to move to a different course, and also you will not be able to pursue the full DP. So those are some of the, again, requirements and expectations that we have, and the statement of understanding that will be shared with you from the DP coordinator. So again, please be mindful that everyone will need to sign this form that kind of acknowledges that you understand the rigor and the challenges that you may face as a full diploma student. Okay. And then academic integrity policy. It's very important that everyone understands the academic integrity policy. Unfortunately, and a lot of our students unintentionally violate the academic integrity policy through different assessments. So it's very, very important that you understand what types of academic integrity violations there are and what the consequences are so that we can pursue. So once students enter the DP, their MYP records are not considered. So we start fresh in the DP. So that is kind of a clean slate. But again, it's really important that you understand, along with your child, what the expectations are in terms of when it comes to academic integrity, so that they are not considered violating our specific policy. Because IB takes this very seriously, TCIS takes this very seriously, and in fact, any type of work that we eventually submit to IB, we are all expected or asked to verify that it's the student's actual work. So academic integrity, again, is very, very important to us. And so please make sure that you're also able to read through the policy. And lastly, I also want to kind of remind you that the diploma program is technically still a different program. Yes, the MYP is designed to help prepare for the DP, but it's still fundamentally a different program. So your child will initially struggle. I mean, that's kind of part of life. I hope I can say that I never faced any challenges and I never had any difficulties in life, but that is part of who we are as human beings, is we face challenges. So if your child struggles that very first month or so, few weeks, it's part of the normal process, I would say, for the most part. But please let us know if you have any really significant concerns, of course. But I also don't want you to panic at every single moment that your child is going through. And one of the things I really love about IB, or the phrase that they often say, is failing well. And while those two you might think like they contradict each other, they actually don't. You want to fail well, especially within the parameters of a school like TCIS, so that again, you're able to safely grow and learn from that experience, and you kind of learn more about who you are as a person. So please don't consider any small minor failures as, oh, this means that my child won't do well in the DP. Every student is going to go through that at different phases, and so please don't panic when you have your child come and say, oh my gosh, Mom, Dad, DP is so hard right now. Please ask them what's going on, but at the same time, please know we've seen a lot of students go through that struggle, and in the end, they really thrive towards the end of the DP. So I just wanted to kind of end that on a positive note, on a more bright and hopeful note. And with that in mind, I think that's a great transition into the counseling, because bright and hopeful. So I'm going to now have Ms. Ree come on up and take over the counseling focus.
Thank you, Mr. Joe.
Hi. So, as many of you know me, I'm the MIP counselor. I've been working with your child for the last 2 years. And students, there's a few students present here. I have been working closely with you last 2 years, and also I'm going to be working with you throughout the IB DP course selection process starting next week. Our goal for you is to find the balance between the being appropriately challenged so that you can still grow and develop as a student, but also to find the success in your academic pursuit. So as Mr. Cho already mentioned, finding the balance between the challenge and then success will be very important. So as it states here, we would define academic success by a score of a 4 or higher in the courses. So in IB, DP, consider a 4 to be a satisfactory. Likewise, your IB grades will be reflected in your GPA. You can see TCIS completed 1 to 7 GPA conversion scale on the second page of your high school profile on your handout. So parents, over the past 2 years, I've been getting to know your child very well, and both in and out of the classroom throughout the guidance lessons or the individual planning meeting or just my random interaction in my office or outside of my office. I'm so excited to planning with them one-on-one starting next week to discuss about their DP journey. And please know that we are here to support you as well. So if you have any question or like to discuss your child's course selection, please feel free to contact us. We can talk about your child's DP course selection and also college plans or anything else. So please feel free to reach out and schedule a meeting with me. So it is difficult to have a balance in the DP. I got this question a lot. And my answer is yes, but it is possible. Still possible to balance. We want you to be balanced to perform well academically, but also to have time for other interests and extracurricular activities such as the sports or clubs. We also want you to have time to sleep at night, which is so important for your brain development and also your physical and mental well-being. So remember that many universities around the world are looking for students who are well-rounded and engaged in their community. So however, it is a myth that you have to be involved in tons of activities. In fact, there are limited numbers of a space to note your activities on the college application. So university do want to see that you have found a few meaningful activities outside of the academics. Remember, it's quality over quantity. Quality is the most important. You can pick and choose what those are. And for some of you, you may need to think about getting a little more involved in the school activity if you do not have enough. Or for others, you should think about what to cut up an activity or two to focus on academics and your true interest. So it is not easy, but it is possible to lead a balanced, full life while you still pursue the DP. So as Mr. Cho already mentioned, teachers are making the recommendation. IBDP course recommendations are made by the teacher to ensure student success. After being part of this process for many, many years, I can confidently say that teachers know what's the best for each student and are great at placing them in the right level courses. Students who push for the higher level courses they unrecommended for open, I see them struggle. So you can trust teacher, their recommendation. At the end of this meeting, we're going to share the recommended courses list of recommendations. If you feel you should be in a higher level courses, for example, if you want to take the GPHL instead of SL and then you will not get the recommendation, there is an appealing process. So to succeed, you need to show your teacher that you can handle the challenge by working hard, improving your grade, and demonstrating academic success and interest from now until the end of the year. So if you show the progress, teachers are more likely to reconsider your course placement. This is a timeline. You have this on your handout too. This is timeline for the IBDP course registration process for the rest of the year. So throughout the January and during the first part of the February, each academic department has met and discussed their recommendation for each student. And after this meeting, counselors, we're gonna begin to meet with their student individually starting next week. And students, you've got a meeting invitation from me already. And Ms. Bomi Kim in the counseling office will remind you a day before of your appointment. So come prepared for the talk about your plans, then whether or not you want to take the full DP, or which courses you hope to take, or what is your post-secondary plans are. On March 12th, the IBDP Advisory Committee will meet to discuss whether or not to approve your DP course selection. For those who are not new to TSIS this semester, will not have the course recommendation yet, completely yet, but we will discuss your course selection in April. So this gives our teacher a little more time to get to know you as a student before making the course recommendation. Yeah, and then we hope to have all schedule finalized by the April or May. So Mr. Cho mentioned this briefly. So parents, we already discussed this with the student during their guidance lesson last week. They know, and then we want to make sure that you know this. So their post-secondary plans needs to be considered when they are selecting the IBDP courses. So if a student plans to attend the university in Europe, Canada, Australia, Hong Kong, or Singapore, the full DP is almost required. If a student plans to attend the UK for the medical school, maybe, they should plan on taking double science and need to perform really well on their IBDP exams. If a student plans to go to US university, actually their IBDP diploma is not a requirement, but they should plan to taking the full diploma if they are applying for the highly selective university because they are looking for the academic rigor. And they also want a student to be well-rounded and well-balanced, involved in the extracurricular activities as well. So college credit may be awarded for the HR courses, and then some SL courses as well. And some university offer scholarship for the full diploma. So make sure you research the schools for the entrance requirements, as they can be specific. Also math. Need to be clear on whether you need analysis or application, and whether you need SL or HL. For example, UK, if you want to major in economics, you may be requiring math HL. So these specific things I want you to look at, and then when we are having the one-on-one discussion, we will check this again together. So because the college research and the application process is very complex, we want to simplify for you. So we create this spreadsheet we're going to share with you for the student to store all of their college university research. And counselor, we're going to share this link with the student in February 20th, upcoming our guidance lesson. Learn how to research college admission requirements as well. So students, this is a great organizational tool. So we encourage you to personalize the spreadsheet, continue with your research, and share it with your parents, so parents can look at it together. And course selection and post-secondary planning should be a dialogue between the parent and student. And TSIS will have an in-person college fair on April 16 during our career day. And please make sure to talk to universities and take advantage of the opportunity. They will meet the people who may be reading your application, your college application. So by maximizing your opportunity at the fair or at the college visit, you will demonstrate your interest to the school and also learn more information and get a better understanding about a fit in their university. So this is all the information we have for you today. Before we conclude, does anyone have any question about DP information in general and also or the college counseling focus? Yes.
In terms of researches for the students to get to know about the universities, do you have any websites that students can have access to? For example, the school that my children went to before, they have CIALCO, those kind of
Yes.
websites that can, you know.
Yes, I've been actually already introduced this to our student already, but I'm gonna revisit this on the February 20th during our homeroom time. And during the time, I'm going to share with them the TESA is using the Maya Learning, which is the same, similar to the CFO. So student will see the university information and then what history of the TESA's acceptance statistics, so they can compare their academic standing versus their student who have accepted those goals. So I'm going to introduce this to the student on February 20th, which is following week.
What about the parents? Do we have the access to the?
Yes, actually, parents who are going to get that access starting in beginning of their junior year. Is that correct? So beginning of junior year, we're going to have a college workshop with the parents, and then during the time, we're going to give access to the parents and also providing more information.
Junior year? What do you mean by junior?
Junior year, next semester.
Next semester.
Yeah. Anything else? Any other question? Yeah.
Quick question about it's kind of confusing because, for example, in handout, I see the DP English and Language and Literature HLS SL-1 and 2. So 1 and 2
Yeah, I think 1, 2 is year 1 and year 2.
Year 1.
Yeah, every DP courses is 2-year-long courses. When they're grade 11 courses, we call year 1, and then grade 12 we call year 2. Yeah, year 2 in DP. All right. So.
Yes, thank you very much for taking the time to join us this evening. And again, if you have any other questions that we weren't able to answer, please feel free to contact us afterwards. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this concludes our presentation tonight. Thank you so much for coming. Before you leave, please make sure you pick up your students' course recommendation. We're going to distribute the students' course recommendations. If you are watching your live stream right now, students, please come by the counseling office tomorrow to pick up your handouts, including your personal DP course recommendation. So those are not here, the parents, those who are not here today, ask your student to come to the counseling office and pick up their IBDP course recommendation. All right, thank you so much.